Hi there, YouTube. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It is Thursday, the 13th of February, 2025. I hope everyone is doing well. Um, we got a lot of winning going on, and the comment section prior to the roll was pretty much nothing. But I've had it. I can't have too much winning. Is winning is just too much winning, and it's really true. It's an awful lot of winning. Um, we got a couple of the more contentious uh, nominations through since we spoke last. RFK Jr. Has been sworn in. Um, uh, Tulsi Gabbard, and it's kind of crazy. I suppose I have to do the shirt routine. Yep. So, like I said, I bought a bunch of these. Just wanted to change the look around a little bit, something a little nicer than t-shirts. So this is kind of I love that color, that electric blue. I think it's fantastic. Uh, let's see. So yeah, and Eric says Kash Patel, and hopefully he'll get through tomorrow, and then it'll be a run. Um, I I heard, it's just honestly, it's really hard to figure out where to start. Um, the I heard Pam Bondi. I always want to say Blondie. Pam Bondi, basically, first thing I heard from her as the new Attorney General was her saying, Illinois is already in deep doo doo. California's next. You either comply with federal law where federal law applies, or else there's going to be some big trouble. And I thought, holy cow, man. Um, yeah, Bondi, Pat Bondi. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Um, and and so, it looks like there was talk that the Department of Education is essentially going to go. If that happens, I will be that will be proof that anything is possible. It's one thing to go after USAID or whatever Elizabeth Warren's pet money siphoning organization is, but honestly, if Pam, I keep saying Pat, yeah, if if it turns out that a major department, a major department of the government happens, and the Department of Education goes away, then I think the chances are excellent that commerce and energy and all the rest of these ridiculous superfluous agencies. But education is huge. It's just a big department. If that actually can go away, then there's nothing that he can't do. Nothing that they can't do together. Um, and we talk so much about DEI, but Doge is the antithesis of DEI. I was talking. I don't remember if it was on my show or Scott's show or whatever, but I was talking about this, um, just sort of this competence lever. I mean, just take USAID. 14,000 people fired, and it took how many people to do it? Six, right? Elon Musk, and how big is his team? Is it four guys, six guys? So it's less than 10, right? So so let's just say, for the sake of it, eight extremely. And when I say extremely, I mean 3 sigma, 4 sigma bright people. Um, can it's 100 now? Good, needs to be bigger. But whatever that number is, can 4 or 5 of these bright kids with Elon at the helm can take out 14,000 dead weight employees. It's like, as I said to Scott, it was Archimedes said, "Give me a big enough lever and a place to stand, and I can move the world." And honestly, that's really it. Hang on a second. We have a message that we need to take here. Wow. The Rough Ryan says, "Hey guys, I need some prayers. I'm driving through a blizzard to celebrate my birthday, and 10-year anniversary, but it's in a snowstorm going to Vegas, baby, from Park City, Utah. Yeah, Ryan, listen, man. I don't know what your deadlines are or anything like that, but I've seen some of these pileups, and there's an and I don't want to lay any more pressure on you. If you have to be there, you have to be there. But one of the most brutal aviation, let me brighten things up a little bit. One of the most brutal aviation maxims of all is, if you get killed because you flew into bad weather, your funeral is going to be on a sunny day. And that's because that's how long weather fronts last. If it's really bad out there, dude, I would really like to think that, you getting there late, meaning like a day late even, is better than not getting there. So if it's the kind of thing where you're really concerned, yeah, get homeitis, as we say. Just be careful. But if it's got to the point where it's really scaring you, dude, you might want to get off and either get a motel or maybe just I don't know what the forecast is. It may be getting worse, but just be careful out there, and for God's sakes, don't reply. You got enough on your mind without having to keep checking your texts and so on. Battle Smurf says, have I heard that the USS Truman collided with a small tanker near Suez? I have not heard that. Dalnick says, I've been all over the country as a truck driver. We have a number of truck drivers here, Dalnick, and they're just some of my favorite people. So I have nothing but the highest respect for truck drivers, and not just respect, affection too. I've done a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, certainly not by professional standards, but as a kid growing up in the 70s and so on, I've done, I don't know how many times I've driven trips that were more than 15 hours, but 15 times, something like that. I've driven across the U.S. 5 times, I think. And I love being on the road, especially way out in the middle of nowhere with truck drivers. I actually really enjoy, maybe because it's just something to do and it's a human interaction, but I'm usually driving a sports car. Oh, thank you very much for that super chat there, Story Monster. Very nice super chat. She says, thank you, Bill. Well, you're very welcome, and thank you. And it's her first super chat, judging from the avatar, which you can never really know. I have not been to every state, no. But the other thing I wanted to say was that I like being, you could be on, almost all of that driving has been on Interstate 10 or on I-95 going north from Miami up to Pennsylvania. So virtually all of it's been on I-10 or I-95, honestly. But I just really like being in a sports car and on a 2-lane, 2 and 2 on deep interstate out in the middle of nowhere. And when you pass a truck, you get a decent distance past the truck, and then you put on your right turn signal, and then the truck will flash his lights, and then indicating I'm far enough ahead of him for him to be comfortable. Then I move into the right lane because the passing lane is for passing, and I flash him back, and it's just nice. It's polite, and it reminds me a lot of radio work in aviation. I loved the radio, doing the radio. I always just really loved talking to people on the radio. I thought controllers are so professional. I've had 1 or 2 bad ones, but that's insignificant compared to the numbers. And I don't know. It's just a neat transaction. I always like doing that. I just like. I was a professional driver for years. I was a limo driver out here for 4 years. So I just like people being courteous. I do the same thing here in LA. When motorcycles pass between lanes, I always move as far over as I can, and I usually get the two fingers, and it just makes me feel good. Makes me feel like, like the world can work a lot better if we're all just doing these little minor things just to not just to improve the safety, although there's certainly that, but it's just courtesy, right? That's actually why I do it. I pull up significant distance and I put on my turn signal and I wait for the guy to say you're good, and it's like this little interaction and it makes me happy. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A couple people mentioned CB radio, and I remember those days very, very well. When I was at the University of Florida, I got there for the fall of '79. I was a class of '77 graduate, so I did a year at Miami-Dade Community College, which is basically high school with ashtrays at the time. And this was, of course, not long after the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit was put in place. And if you've never driven it, I have not driven through the center of Kansas, but I'm going to put a flag in this statement, and I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I'm pretty sure that the Florida Turnpike is the most sleep-inducing, boring drive on the face of the planet. People always ask why you stay in California. One of the reasons is I get to turn the steering wheel and occasionally use the accelerator as well. So I love driving out here because there's mountains, and the first time I drove over Laurel Canyon, which is extremely two-lane, very, very, very tight, windy road. I couldn't believe how cool it was. I felt like I was on a roller coaster. Yeah, Texas on I-10, Coconut ED said 880 miles. I'll tell you what's interesting about that. If you're going from Florida to California, Interstate 10, like most interstates, have mile markers, and the mile markers reset at the state border. So when you're going from the east to the west, the numbers count down. So you'll be in Florida, and you get to Jacksonville, and you make the turn from the from 95 to the 10, and you think, okay, I'm at the top of the Florida Peninsula. I'm almost there, almost out of Florida. It's like, no, you got the Panhandle, which is virtually as long from Jacksonville to Miami as it is from Jacksonville to the border. So you get to the border with Alabama, and the next thing you see is, no, I'm not talking about Alligator Alley. Alligator Alley is pretty boring too, but it's a lot shorter. So you 40 miles, 22 miles, 1, and then you get to Alabama, and I forget what it is. It's like 130 something, and I think it's Mississippi next, and there's 67, and Louisiana is like 128. And you're looking at all these numbers, and you get to Texas, and you cross into Texas, and the first thing you see is 880 miles. And I'm thinking, 80 miles an hour, that's 11 hours nonstop. Before driving across America would be really kind of fun if it weren't for Texas. Texas is just, well, either way. Once you get past Texas, it feels like you're pretty much all the way home. But what I was basically saying, in 1979, we had the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. I had a friend of mine who was a director of photography on 16-millimeter films that I made there. He lived in Fort Lauderdale, and he would go home pretty much every weekend, and I kind of kept coming back for a while too, so I came with him most of the time. And he had a Mercedes, an older Mercedes, and I think we had, I know we had 2. I want to say we had 3 radar detectors in that car, fuzzbusters, if I recall correctly. Here's Bad Weather Biker with a $20 super chat says, disagree, the most boring interstate highway in the United States is I-35 between Albert Lee, Minnesota, and Ames, Iowa. Okay, have you done the Florida Turnpike? The reason the Florida Turnpike is especially boring is because you don't get to go fast on it because there's so many damn state troopers there. Also, the Florida Turnpike doesn't have regular exits. I mean, it's they've got for food. They have those rest stations, and I'm sure it's different now. But at the time, they were basically monopolies, and you went in there, and it was like, oh, okay. Airports used to have monopolies on food. It's hard to believe now. You walk through LAX now, you see nothing but Starbucks and, meaty McRibs, Irish, pub extravaganza kind of thing. But it used to be there was like the airport restaurant, and it was real bad and real expensive. So anyway, the Florida Turnpike is flat as a board and straight as an arrow for 21 miles, and then it cranks 10 degrees to the left, and it's straight as a board, flat as a board, straight as an arrow for another half an hour. Then it cranks 15 degrees to the right again. It was just freaking awful. And my friend Rick was driving, and I was like the electronic warfare officer. I'm looking at these little LEDs. Like, is that strong enough signal, or is that a fake signal? It's like, it's all right, Rick. Looks like we're getting slow down. Wee. We had two facing forward. We had one facing back, and man, is that unbearable. You actually can, if you drive. When I'm on the interstates, I'm never below 80, ever, and I think probably I don't exceed 90, so I'm in the 80s usually. But when you slow down to 55, you think you can walk that fast. So it is. It's a 6-hour drive from Gainesville to Miami, and about 5 to Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, and Darth Chuck the Merciless is a man after my own heart, because he understands the essential logic of how to drive without getting a ticket, or at least not too many tickets. He writes, always found it more reliable to just be the second fastest vehicle in sight. That's right, be the second fastest car on the road. And as long as you're being passed by one guy every now and then, you're pretty good. So also stay in the right lane. Somebody told me when I was real young that like 93% of all traffic tickets are written in for cars in the far left lane. So anyway, yeah, that was brutal, because it's one thing when you're doing 80 miles an hour, you feel like you're traveling, you feel like you're actually going someplace, but to be artificially slowed down by that 55 mile an hour speed limit, you just feel like, my God, I'm in third gear, and it was just freaking awful. Lapko with a super chat here says, driving across the U.S. would be a hoot, especially with all the intoxicated Venezuelans and Guatemalans on the wrong side of the road. Yeah, that would be. But they drive on they don't drive on the left down there, do they? I don't know if anybody in the Western Hemisphere drives on the left. I'd be surprised if they did. So, anyway, yeah. But we did the CB thing. And that was kind of fun. I drove from LA with two friends of mine from Florida. All three of us moved back to Florida at the same time, and we had 3 cars with 3 CB radios, and that was fun. Mine just burned out, smoke came out of it. Pulled into a Target in El Paso, Texas, or something. Walked in with this smoking CB player, and they just exchanged it for me. Didn't have a receipt. I was really impressed by Target. I remember thinking, I'm shopping at Target from now on because of that. I haven't thought about that since '93 when it happened, I guess. Anyway, yeah. So, and my dad was the kind of guy who would do on a 2-lane highway, like to do the pass, And I've done it, but I didn't do it like my dad. My dad was like compulsive about it. He just, anytime there was like a chance to duck around a car on one of these 2-lane highways. And even as a boy, I remember there were times when I thought, "That's it, man. We're going to glory here. There's no way we're going to make it." Yeah, that's something. So I did have an idea. That's I don't want this to come off the wrong way by any means. I just think it's interesting. So for those of you who've been around for a long time, we know that relatively recently they introduced the Stratosphere bingo card, and anytime I mention something like RK or Macaques or the Bitchin' Camaro or police body cam videos, people get to check off boxes. And I get the spirit of fun that it is and everything, but it makes me a little bit self-conscious, to be honest with you, because it makes me feel like I've just kind of like run out of things to say. That it's all just the same thing, you know, in moderately different order. No, I don't want you to stop. I'm not asking people to stop. I don't want to. I don't want to. I want to be crystal clear on this. It's not that I want people to stop. It's very flattering, actually, and it's fun. But it does make me feel like a bit like a broken record. And I realized, that a lot of that is, the questions. Again, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it as an insult. Like I said, I want to be crystal clear on this. I think it's very flattering, and very charming and fun. All I'm saying is that it makes it feels like I keep coming back to land at kind of the same place. So here's why I bring it up, because there's no reason to bring it up just to bring it up. It would be fun to take questions that are just really, really different than the kind of questions I usually get, because I come to realize that I can pretty much talk about I think about just about almost anything, and it would be nice to have some some new directions. I mean, I could talk about. I think I could talk about anything. So maybe we can think about that in the comment section or something, in the forum or anything. No, Marisha says, Bill, if it makes you feel any better, I've made them for several other channels. It's not a problem. I really, really, really want to be clear about that. It's not a problem. I just would really think it'd be fun to get some things that are that are just a little different. So I'm curious to know. See, like, there you go. As example, Road Rider says, "Are you athletic? Can you do push-ups like RFK?" See, that's a little bit different. Okay, so actually, Darth Trek the Merciless says, previous owner of a 67 GTO. I had a GTO very briefly for about I don't know, a couple months. It was a fun car. All right, so he said, Bill, where do you plan to retire? Chubby Bill? I don't know. I feel chubby sometimes. So yeah, it's kind of fun. So hang on a second there, Quibo. Let me deal with these one at a time. First of all, as far as athletic goes, no, I've become way too sedentary. I have been doing a lot more walking lately, although it's been kind of rainy lately. It's raining in Los Angeles, and out in front of the building, the water is this deep and running fast into the ocean, and we spent a significant amount of money for reservoirs so that we could put out fires with that, and then the next thing you know, boom. But I used to be. I don't know if I would say athletic, but I used to be, really active as a kid. I ride bikes and climb trees and run around, play touch football and little league baseball and all that stuff. And I kind of miss that. I was actually decent at volleyball, and I really need to be getting out and doing a lot more of that. Somebody asked how many pull-ups could I do. There was a time when I could do, I don't know, 30 maybe, when I was working out all the time. We put up a pull-up bar in the house because Natasha sometimes needs to stretch her back, and I tried to do like a pull-up, and I don't think I could get to 3. I was shocked, man. I was shocked. I'd put on some weight, but mostly I just let muscles basically atrophy. I did put on a lot of muscle when I went to the gym every single day in 1993 for about 2 years, and I just kept adding weights and adding weights and adding weights, and it was great, and And once you put that muscle on, it apparently doesn't really go away unless you genuinely starve yourself and your body starts consuming muscle tissue. But what it does mean is that since it's there, it doesn't take a whole lot to pump it up again and bulk back up a little bit. But it was I really have I've let myself just kind of sort of slack off on these things, and as long as I keep to the point where if I'm going to run into a wall, my nose hits the wall before my stomach does, then I generally feel like doing okay. But I really need a lot more activity, a lot more. And as far as the steps goes, I don't think I might have done 7,000 steps. It would be my all-time high. 6,000 is a lot for me. 5,000 consistently. And when I go out for a walk, it's never less than 4,000, pushing 5,000. Here's a question, Bill. What's the most weight you've ever put on? Yes, I asked it. What's the fattest you've ever been? It wasn't too long ago when I was drinking these acai and peanut butter smoothies that I just got so addicted to. I, for the first time in my life, this would be about a year ago now, maybe a little bit less than a year. I was at about 187 for most of my adult life, right around there, 185, 187. And then I started drinking these bloody acai shakes, which I was actually, I think, addicted to. I was drinking 2 or 3 of these things a day, these peanut butter and acai smoothies. And I told myself, it's no big deal. I'm just not cutting down on the rest of the food and so on. And that pushed me into the 190s. And then one day I woke up and I was 200 pounds. I'm 6'1". And I lost my mind, but I didn't stop drinking these damn shakes. And so by the time I went up to Oshkosh with Bert and the gang this last July, I was, I think I hit 207 or 208. And I was just so disgusted with it. The thing about going to Oshkosh was I couldn't order those damn shakes for 5 days. And when I came back, I said, if I order one now, I'll never stop drinking these things. I just never will. So I figured since I'd done 5 days since I was on the road, I just stopped. And since then, I went from 208 down to what I am now, which is about 196, which is still 10 pounds heavier than I should be. And I got to tell you, man, I have been living off of shredded wheat and banana shakes and cutting calories way down. Also walking more, and I am having a devil of a time losing this weight. I mean, really, really, really having a hard time losing this weight. Janie said 10,000 steps. And I'm sure that'll do it. But I mean, I've given up sodas. I've given up French fries. I've given up milkshakes. All the things that I used to, and I cannot. I'm really, really shocked. I cannot shake this weight. I started on shredded wheat is not healthy, says Texican. Okay, well maybe I'm eating the wrong stuff. I figured it was relatively good because it's like eating wood chips. Steve Whoop says give up on carbs and sugar, and I've given up carbs and sugar. I'm not counting calories. I'm not really counting them. I'm just plain observing them. I'm eating. Yes, I am counting calories. Yes, I am. So I'm trying to keep it to 1,500 maybe, and yeah, everybody's saying carnivore is good. Carnivore is a little tough for me because my schedule is kind of, so I need to be able to go kind of quick. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I love fruit. I eat a lot of fruit in the summertime. But I got to do something. Yeah, P7 says cut back on what you eat. I am cutting back on what I eat. I'm really genuinely cutting back on what I eat, and I'm having a devil of a time. Now, macronutrients for age, body type, and activity level. This is something that may be causing the problem. Sycopolin says buy an air fryer. We did. We bought an air fryer. I've been taking this really, really seriously. I've made a real change. But a lot of it is I haven't been eating like organic stuff. I don't eat a lot of processed foods. And you know, coming up on 66. So, huh? Melons and berries have the least sugar. Proteins and carbs and fat have protein, carbs, and fat in the right proportion. Well, obviously, I'm not eating as well or as well as I should, but I'm not eating junk anymore. That's for sure. Increase protein, increase fat, decrease carbs, eliminate all processed sugar. Well, pretty much what I'm doing. Thank you very much. Russell Johnson says Johansson. Excuse me. Sorry about that, Professor. Saw the Russell looked like Russell Johnson. Russell Johansson says you're still looking great, Bill. Thank you very much. And I cut out soda and lost 10 pounds. I did too, and I lost about 10 pounds. But I am not losing this. I mean, I got down to 196, 197, and it's just locked there. So, I did shake 10 pounds, 12, something like that. But this is like plateaued, and I'm really struggling with it. Oh, you're all very kind. Thank you very much. And part of me is saying, no, but the other part of me is saying, no, that's just what I want to hear. And part of me is saying, well, maybe 197 is 195, not real bad for your age and your height. Don't look fat or anything, but it's like, no, I need to lose 10 pounds, and I have never done any fasting. Lady Jane says stop eating processed food. I don't know what to do about it. I really don't. Have I tried the Slim Fast shakes? Yes, I have. I want to hear what other people have to say about Slim Fast shakes. Part of the problem is your body needs time to retrain itself to actually use what you put into it. Otherwise, it'll continue to conserve the fat. Yes, I've heard that too. I've heard that there's like what's it called? Like a set point, that your body has a set point, and that to reset that set point takes a while. That your body kind of wants to go to a certain weight. Sad Wings Raging says, I pay good money for every fat cell I have. And I completely agree with Castellan. I actually have a fair amount of hope about this. Castellan says, now that RFK Jr. is Secretary of HHS, maybe we'll all get healthier. Yeah, so we'll see. Now, Veronica's onto something here. Don't eat 6 hours before to bed. I usually eat before I go to bed, and that's probably 80% of my problem, I'll bet. So, hire a cook, says Lady Janie. Well, I'll hire an editor before I hire a cook, and I'm not able to do either one of that actually right now. So, anyway, no, I don't drink much water at all. In fact, I would say I'm consistently dehydrated. I'll tell you what I really want to do. I want to have somebody come in, a doctor, and put me into a medically induced coma and just not eat anything for 6-7 days. Because that's what happened when I had COVID. I didn't eat anything for I don't think any solid food for a week, and I lost 16 pounds. Here, I'll have some water now, because I don't want to make Janie upset. Nobody wants to make Janie upset here. Here's some. Cheers. Trumper, the sweaty fat guy, says, get GERD and you won't be able to eat 8 hours before going to sleep. Just take lots of ibuprofen without food like I did in the desert back in 2004. That's that's awesome. Um, uh, yeah, or maybe I could, if I'm lucky, maybe I could pick up um, some tapeworms along the way or something like that. I should be drinking my body weight in ounces worth of water each day. You mean 168 ounces of water? It's a lot of water. Um, anyway, yeah, well, see, that's something different. 168 ounces of water? How's that possible? What's the 16 fluid ounces? So 10 of these. Wow. Does that actually help? Because I am genuinely perpetually dehydrated. That's an honest fact. My skin is real dry, and I just don't drink a lot of water. I drink a lot of tea. Now everybody's going to tell me tea is the thing. I drink a lot of tea. Um, that mess up your electrolytes. My God, it's so wild getting so much advice from such smart people. It's a little overwhelming. Um, Dave Big Boutte just called me a queer for drinking tea. I used to drink sweet tea. I miss sweet tea. The sweet tea at Sonny's Barbecue in Gainesville, Florida, by the way. That sweet tea was so sweet. You get a big one like this, that big around. Get a giant sweet tea and ribs and barbecue chicken and those crinkle cut fries. No, it's not Earl Grey. It's a combination of cinnamon tea and Lipton, the way real men drink. It's generic tea. But man, I'll tell you what, those sweet teas, uh, were so sweet. You could take like a packet of sugar and take like 4 granules of sugar and sprinkle them into the sweet tea, and it would hit that point, and the whole tea would just crystallize and just turn into rock candy. So, anyway, Southern sweet tea with barbecue. Yes, sir. Dude McMahon knows all about Southern sweet tea with barbecue. Sweet tea and barbecue is how I got through Florida, man. It's how I dealt with Florida. When I was in Florida, it was not a big deal to have a swimming pool. All the apartments I had in Florida that I rented in Florida had swimming pools. And honestly, in the summer in Florida, I would swim 5 times a day, 4 or 5 times a day. I've heard fasting is good, but I haven't really had the. Well, look, Here's the thing about my willpower. Okay, it's like I don't have any gradation of willpower. I have zero willpower, and then I have 100% willpower, and there's nothing in between. It's like I just slack, and then all of a sudden something clicks, and it's like, okay, that's it, boom. Natasha's constantly amazed. Oh, you have so much willpower. It's like trying to control what I eat and just cut the calories, just reduce the calories. Put in less than I spend, increase the expenditures by walking. It should come off. It's got to come off, and I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyway, so there's that. So this is fun. This is something different. Why don't we do 1 or 2 different ones, then we'll get into the comment section and we'll see. I'll take the first one I see here. That's like a different kind of a topic for Stratosphere Lounge enjoyment, such as it is. Yeah, see, Kesslin says line of conversation must be working. He's got nothing for his bingo card. Oh, and also, and this should help. Marisha Dark once again with a useful link. Intermittent fasting helps adjust your set point. By the way, what the hell was I going to? Oh. Yeah, I started, you know what, I'm going to leave that alone. I changed my mind on that one. Eric Blake, what's your favorite video game? Well, I've been playing a lot of DCS, Eric, but in terms of like games, I played a lot of Quake. Man, I played a lot of Quake when Quake was hot, and uh, let me think. I did. It's mostly been simulations, honestly. Um, yeah, I can't think. That was the first thing that flew into my head. I played a little Counter Strike for a while there. Uh, um, oh, yeah, yeah. I think probably it was always first person shooters or flight sims for me. This one's hilarious. Furball 321 wants to know, did I ever try to grow a beard? Not only did I try to grow a beard, I actually had a beard. Well, a beard. Um, I do I have those pictures? It was it was. I'm acutely embarrassed to even admit it. Um, the Because it was just nasty. I do not have um, I do not have the follicle density to grow a beard, and even less for a mustache. I mean, it's so weak. But yes, yes. All right. Let me see if I where would I let me see if I can think about where I would have this. I'll check one place, and if it's not there, then I'll give it up. Um, but I had a yeah, a beard and a mustache in college. Actually, that's actually kind of a fun story. Um, uh, so I used to go. I brush. I have curly hair. I have naturally very curly hair. This looks so freaking marvelous because it's beaten into submission with very powerful chemicals every 4 or 5 months or so, and it's dry out here, generally speaking. But I had really curly hair, so brushing that would make it wavy hair. So I had wavy hair in high school, and I hated it. And all these kids said, this is like 1976, 77, and these guys had kind of those wings, with straight hair, part down the middle with the wings, that kind of look. And I want to say David Cassidy had that kind of haircut. I wanted that real bad, but just didn't have the hair for it. So I was just going to regular barbers and the equivalent of supercuts or whatever. And then I don't remember how the recommendation came, but this must have been about halfway through my senior year in high school. I was thinking about this the other day. It's why I thought I'd take this. Um, yeah, they had like that feathered cup. It wasn't for me. I just had like a brown pom pom on my head, just really curly hair, and I hated it. And I was just brushing it, and blow drying it, which just made it look like hay. And somehow or another, when I was in my senior year in high school, I'd gone to barbershops, and there was this hair salon on Dixie Highway. It was down by Sound Advice, which was a stereo shop, and it was called Butterfly One. And I don't. Somebody recommended that I go in there, and so I did. And I walked in, and it was the first time I'd ever been in a place that wasn't just a barber shop. And there was they're playing like Fleetwood Mac. Rumors had just come out. I remember that. And Lindsey Buckingham, had that look and stuff with the whole thing. So I basically went to Butterfly One, and this guy just completely did everything different. He gave me like this afro, and I had an afro pick, and I would like pick it out, and I had like this kind of curly helmet, and I tried to grow this beard and mustache, and I looked like I wasn't trying to look like Lindsey Buckingham at all, but I all of a sudden went from having like Squaresville hair to like kind of groovy hair, and I had this. My dad had given me like an Indian arrowhead thing, and it was like I made it into a necklace, a short thing I was wearing here, kind of like Jeremy with his bent key. And yeah, and I look like the drummer from Boston, exactly. I look like I was going around needing more cowbell, and and uh, that lasted for that lasted all the way through college, and then right up in yeah, it lasted from probably 77 until about. Did I have bell bottoms? Oh yeah. Well, we didn't call them bell bottoms; we called them flares, if I remember correctly. And then I went up to the University of Florida, and while I was at the University of Florida, Fleetwood Mac kind of disappeared, and all of a sudden New Age came in. And then right around 83 or 84, I grew my hair like really long. It wasn't a mullet. Don't want to hear anything about a mullet. It was just long and down to my shoulders. And when that was straightened, it looked good for about a day. But I have pictures taken. These I might have somewhere. I have pictures taken of me with my bitchin' '80s hair, and those that was a cool look. Hang on, let's see what I can find here. If it's not immediately in my favorites, then I'm not gonna. Checking. Yeah, I just deleted a bunch of pictures off the desktop too, which is. Hang on. Let me see. I think this is probably game is not going to be worth the candle, but let me have a look. I remember I got a kind of a version of this modern haircut, a little longer than it is now, and I met a guy through FOA, and it was Gary Sinise's stylist, and he said, "I'll be happy to cut your hair for you." And I sat down, and he said, "Leave this long in front. We're going to flip this around. We're going to give you more of a leading man look." He said. I thought, "Ooh, I like the sound of that." Hang on, still looking. Let me speed this up a little bit. Hey, there you go. Okay, here. This is for your viewing pleasure. Here's me. I'll show you a couple. This is me in Central Park. Oops. This would be, God, when would 95, I want to say, somewhere around 95. So this is what my hair does, when it's just, in humid conditions. Wow, that's a small image. See? Hang on there, YouTube. I got to do this twice. So that's me rowing in Central Park. Hey, look at that. And that was when I was actually working out, and just looking at it makes me want to get back in the gym. Trying to find I don't know if I have a beard picture, and even if I did, I don't think I'd have the guts to show it because that was just plain freaking awful. But I do have my new wave, my bitchin' new wave hair. Hang on a second. I just saw it. There it is. Now this is from a contact sheet. For those of you not familiar with that term, that's when they would shoot rolls of film, and then instead of enlarging it, they just lay the negatives down and they expose the negatives. So it's kind of low resolution. But this is I don't know if I've ever shown this picture before. I might have, and it's torn obviously. But this is bitchin'. Working in the Miami nightclub New Wave with my frickin' awesome white satin tie. This is New Wave Bill from 85-ish. Boy, this is even smaller. I love that picture, by God. I really do. I love it. There you go. So, yeah. Yeah. It's totally Buckaroo. Exactly. Thank you, Steve Whoop. Precisely. It's totally Buckaroo. Um, so anyway, big hair, big shoulders. Yeah, it was great. I miss it. I miss it. Um, yeah. So anyway, that was the story. So that was at the at Butterfly One, and they were playing all this groovy music, and they were serving like wine and stuff, and I thought, this is awesome, man. This is freaking great. Hang on a second there, YouTube. I'll knock these babies out of there. You can turn off, and so can you. Great, hooray. Okay, that was fun. It does look like an '80s album cover, man. That was a cool look, and I miss that jacket. Just looking at that picture, I thought, oh, I want that tie back. By God, I want that tie. I want that jacket. I could get the jacket back. I couldn't. I don't even think get my arms down the sleeve. But yeah, it was cool. It was fun. This is fun. It's fun to talk about different things for a change. All right, why don't we ever think about growing your hair back like that, Bill? No. I would look ridiculous. I asked Phil, our friend Phil Trick, my friend Phil Trick, best friend Phil Trick, about whether he had any pictures of Jack Horkheimer from back in the day in the 1970s. When I first saw Horkheimer several times before I actually met him, he would be kind of storming around the planetarium, and I'm including this in the Golden Age firewall I'm working on. Thank you, Russell. Looking like a Chad in the 80s. So Jack was walking around, and he had like long curly brown hair. He looked like Charles the First kind of thing, you know. And I saw him a couple times, and finally we were in the production room, and I was just brand new there. I mean, I was just some kid, and he walked in, and they introduced me to him. I said, "Hi, Jack," and he said, "How's it going, kid?" Walked over to the corner and sat down on the floor, and I'm looking at him, and he just reaches up, and he pulls his hair off. I was too naive to realize it was a wig, and probably not a very good wig. I'm not far off of believing from Santa Claus, and I was so shocked that I remember when I first saw Empire Strikes Back in a movie theater in 1983, was it? When Darth Vader's helmet comes off, that's not Empire Strikes Back. It Return of the Jedi. So 85 or whatever. When Darth Vader's helmet comes off and you see the gray skin and all that other stuff underneath there, first time I saw that, I immediately flashed back to when Horkheimer took his wig off. That's the effect it had on me. Like, oh my God, pretty weird. Yep, that's it. All right. That was fun, and we can do more of that, and you can put more kind of offbeat questions into the comment section. By the way, I did get finished with the guy who's doing the work on optimizing our website, and we went from a speed score of 40 to a speed score of 90, and over at billwhittle.com. So hopefully most of you will be seeing that speed change. It still seems a little slow for me in Chrome, but when I try it in Firefox, it loads right up. So it's definitely faster. But I'm still a little disappointed in Chrome, and I cleared the Chrome cache just earlier today, and now it's still taking 5-6 seconds to load this thing. But hopefully you'll see a speed improvement. Status Spiral on questions for Thursday, February 13th by Roadrunner. Thank you, Roadrunner, for keeping track of those things. When I saw it on Firefox, the website is 1 second load. It's much faster. So hopefully, we'll see. Because here I am in Chrome again. I'm just going to load Firefox again just to see if it's. No, it's slow in Firefox too. This is annoying. It's I just finished paying for this, and I thought I would. How's that possible? I mean, I just clicked the. I checked it earlier today. Maybe it's because I'm streaming. Um, but in any event, that's really damn disappointing. I'm hoping this is a bandwidth issue because this is not acceptable. God damn it. Anyway, all right. So let me just have a look at what we got here because what time is it? All right. We got a Roadrunner. We got a Capital G Geek. We got another Roadrunner. We got a Janie Waterman. We got a Mark McConnell. We got an Ian Nolan, a Road Rider. Bob Neef, Jacob Belchak, Marusha Dark, Eric Blake, Charles Tomes. Not going to happen. Um, uh, well, we'll do what we can. Certainly going to eliminate duplicates anyway. Um, Greetings, friend Bill. I just saw this is Roadrunner. Just saw your steamroller post requesting that President Trump slow down so that conservative pundits can catch up to all of the winning. Bill, my friend, I hope I can call you my friend, even though we've never met in person. Of course you can. Leave the man alone. He's on a roll, similar to the role John Belushi was on in Animal House. Well, that's why I didn't. I said I don't want you to stop winning, Mr. Trump. Just can we have a 48-hour moratorium so I can catch up? I did say 48 hours. Yeah, I am streaming on 2 platforms simultaneously. Thank you, Marisha. That's probably eaten a fair amount of bandwidth. Needless to say, it was a tongue-in-cheek thing to say, so hopefully nobody took it too seriously. But in any event, we all know the only reason the rhinos haven't thrown a spanner into the gears, spanner is used as an acknowledgement of Bill's British public school pass, thank you, an adjustable spanner, is that they've been gobsmacked, another British term I learned while in the military, as the progressives. Let the man get as much done as possible before the swamp finally gets him mired in the muck. Am I dizzy from all of the winning? Heck yeah. But the dizziness is for a great cause. I know pundits like you are struggling to keep up with all of the winning. Think of it as a character-building exercise and let the man keep doing what desperately needs to be done. We may only get this chance once. Never underestimate the stupidity of the stupid party. They can screw up a bottle party in a brewery. Hope and pray that J.D. Vance can take over when President Trump's turn is over and that he can continue to keep up the skier. Hat tip to Confederate General Nathan Forrest, but I have been disappointed too many times in the past about GOP candidates. Please let Trump be Trump. We need this man. He fights. Yes, I putting the tongue-in-cheek. Please slow down with the winning, Mr. Trump thing, which obviously I never intended to be taken seriously. The fact of the matter is he's accelerating, and that's even better. He I heard I was there was this judge put some kind of injunction against looking at Treasury files or something, and they just said we're just going to ignore it. If Joe Biden says the Supreme Court stopped me from doing the student loan, they blocked me, but they didn't stop me. Is that what Biden used to brag about with the student loans? So okay, sauce for the goose. I am at the point where I don't believe in executive orders or rule by executive orders, but by God, this is the world we find ourselves in. We're engaged in hand-to-hand fighting with the Japanese, and they're biting and doing all kinds of things. So fight back. And basically, Trump just said we're going to ignore it. And then I think the judge walked it back. But the idea that 300 judges, any one of 300 judges, can simply stop the executive branch dead in its tracks is clearly an unconstitutional overreach on the part of the judicial branch. So Yeah, he's winning big, and you know when you find this much waste in a really small section of the budget, which is USAID and then this current war and thing and so on. If there's that much waste, if you can find 85 billion dollars in USAID, what's going to happen when he gets to the Defense Department or education or energy or Social Security or Treasury? You know what's going to happen when they start taking a look at the big pieces of the pie, not this initial sliver, which apparently was done fully aware that it was a great way to start tactically because it would produce the kind of things that would make Americans really angry and get them behind the whole Doge thing. It was a brilliant debut of Doge. Coming out with like, oh, we spent $20 million on Sesame Street for Iraq or DEI training in Syria or something. It's just enough to make you crazy. Lady Hawk says, what about the 20 billion from EPA that Zelnick found out about? It's just, I'm telling you, when it all comes down, and when it all comes down, we're going to find like a vast underground network. Like you look at the city from the air, you fly into Los Angeles or something, you look at the city from the air, and what do you see? You see streets and buildings. What you don't see are the sewer lines, the water lines, and the electrical lines. And when you look at the government, all you're seeing is the buildings, but underneath all of this is a network of money, some of which is legitimate, but what you could call that the water system, which is way, way more extensive than it should be. But then there's also going to be just plain graft, and we're going to find out that I bet you easily. I wouldn't be surprised if 40% of the money that gets spent is illegitimate or illegal, and it may be higher than that. And certainly Musk's experience at Twitter and the experience at USAID is that you can fire 90% of the people working, and as long as you keep the top 10%, not only does the organization not suffer, it actually gets more efficient. Oh, hey, Dylan, good to see you. Thank you for the kind words. Castellan says 2.7 trillion in improper overseas Medicaid payments over 10 years to overseas invalid recipients. Trillion. Lady Hawk says people are 150-year-olds still getting their Social Security payments. Yes. The big question is going to be what happens to all of this money. Roadrunner thinks it's much more than 40%. Retrostar Music says 70%. I wouldn't be surprised at 70%. I wouldn't be surprised at 80 or 90%, to be honest with you. But what do we do with that? If you could continue to tax us at the same rate and take that 40%, or let's just say for the sake of the argument, let's just say 50%. You could tax us at the same rate and take that 50% of the total revenues and use it to pay down the deficit. Or you could give us a 50% tax break, which I would like, frankly. I saw President Trump say, "Hey, Caledon, good to see you," that he's thinking about eliminating the IRS. I actually heard those words come out of his mouth, and it's like, my God. This is the most amazing thing about what Trump has accomplished, is that he has accomplished things that simply seem that were on my wish list forever, but that I thought were absolutely just impossible. Yeah, Roadrunner, I agree with you. I'd settle for a 25% tax break and 25% going to pay down the debt. That seems reasonable to me. And then the economy grows like crazy. You grow your way out of the debt. But the days of conservatives funding Democrat politicians and funding the kind of social engineering designed to destroy our values, I think those days might be over. I'm not happy that my tax dollars have gone to pay $10 million of Chelsea Clinton's mansion. These are the things that I would stick on. I think that's more outrageous than LGBTQ work in Iraq. Much more outrageous. Much more outrageous. Because, $20 million for LGBTQ stuff in Iraq, you could at least make the case, you could at least have the possibility that it was well-intentioned bad idea on the part of lunatics. $10 million going into Chelsea Clinton's personal mansion is just raw grift. And yeah, Castle says we're paying 8% of the BBC's budget, or was that 8% of their charity budget? I don't know which. But in any event, we're paying for the BBC and Politico and all the rest of it. No. When Doge starts biting into big pieces of pie, then it's going to find big savings. And this puts the Democrats into the 80-20 problem that they're in. 80% of Americans want secure borders and deport illegal criminals. So the Democrats have to oppose Trump. If Trump backs that, then the Democrats have to oppose him, which means they put themselves in the 20% category. Something like 4 out of 5 Americans think that the federal government is overspending and wasteful. So if Trump says we're going to stop the waste, that means the Democrats have to oppose Trump because he's Hitler. So they put themselves into the 20% category, and they lose more. Grift, graft, it doesn't really matter to me. It's all crooked, and I can't believe what's actually happening. Like as the Wave says, the fact checkers say the Chelsea Clinton story is false. I would think it means at least it's mostly true. Yeah, I'm not so sure. Well, one of the things that's going to go away is we're going to stop subsidizing fact checkers that shape the narrative for the Democrats. I'm sure the fact checkers get a fair amount of money from the government one way or another. Lady Hawk says it went to the Clinton Foundation. She took her salary out of it, $800,000 a year. Somebody told me that they took a look at Chelsea's foundation is supposed to feed people in Haiti, and somebody did the calculation, and they said that given the number of meals that they've served versus the amount of money they've raised, the price per meal to feed the Haitians is $1,480. That's how much each meal for the Haitians cost, in terms of how much money they raised versus how many meals they've actually served. So, yeah, they raise $10 million and they spend $500,000 of that on their charitable purpose. There comes a point where this can be proven to be criminal. I ran a 501c3 for a while, and applied for one and got the tax exemption. It was called the Airspeed Foundation, and we were going to just offer free flights for kids and stuff. And so in order to get the tax exemption, you have to have what's called your charitable purpose. And if it turns out that you are essentially just laundering money tax-free, or in other words, Chelsea Clinton has figured out a way to pay herself nearly $1 million a year from donations, and the people make the donations because they're tax-deductible donations. They're tax-deductible donations because Chelsea says that your tax donation goes to feed Haitian kids, but in reality, 90% of it or 95% of it goes to pay her salary. Comes a point where you can say this is fraud, just pure fraud. And this is when the Justice Department's going to follow Doge around through the wreckage and start looking at what's not just immoral or underhanded, what's actually illegal. That's the part I'm really looking forward to. And after the Mar-a-Lago raid and all of the lawfare and stuff, I don't think Donald Trump's in the mood to let Hillary Clinton off the hook, or Chelsea or anybody else off the hook. I think he's got his war face on, and I just can't stand Hillary or Chelsea, and I just pity Bill. I mean, I don't have the same visceral hatred that I have for those two, but I despise him, and he's just sad, sad. Like as the Wave says, fraud, the 8th circle of hell in the inferno. Get it back. We want our money back. That's what our rallying cry should be. We want our money back. from all these places that we sent it. We want our money back from the BBC. We want our money back from all these people. Now, you can't do that legally. If that donation was made to the BBC legally, you can't get your money back. But just cutting them off is a big help. But I would like to see I'd like to see Chelsea Clinton prosecuted for fraud, because that's pretty much it. Capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of North Virginia. We got a bunch here, so let me just kind of skim it and see what we got here. Jeez. So I can take one of these from Capital G Geek because we got a lot of ground to cover. He says he's noticed a drastic increase in the boldness of people on X replying to typical Karen points. I've seen it on Facebook too since Zuckerberg removed so much of the censorship. I've noticed that Facebook comments have been just brutal in a way that they weren't before. He says an example would be when they talk about Elon and crew not being elected, the response usually includes Fauci and something about a cabal leading Biden around with an ice cream cone. Yeah, the Elon's not elected. Neither is the Secretary of Defense, Treasury, State, Energy, any of them. None of them are elected. So that he's unelected stuff is pretty weak sauce, and I think they know it. Chuck Schumer trying to do that chant was, to me, just French kiss kind of. I've said this about the Republican National Committee logo, that block-legged, blind elephant with the vestigial trunk, that god awful logo for the GOP. I've said many times, if I was in charge of the Democratic National Committee, I couldn't design a worse logo for the Republicans than the one that we've got. And watching Schumer, I just thought, man, the optics of this compared to the optics of Trump surrounded by all those little girls and looking like Santa Claus or Granddad and just all of these smiley faced little girls, young girls, looked so good. And Schumer and Waters and it wasn't a good look for them outside the Department of Education either. Was it Education where they were locked down? I think it was. Or Treasury, I don't remember. Schumer and his raw hamburgers, putting slices of cheese on his raw hamburgers. He's never made a hamburger in his life. He is a schmuck. He's just an absolute. Schumer and his mini-me, Adam Schiff, are just two of the most repugnant, weaselly, just slimy, greasy politician types, Freaking, there's times when Schumer reminds me of like Fagin in Dickens. It's awful. And Maxine Waters is just a joke. I want her to be the face of the Democratic Party and the voice. What are they going to shoot us? No, ma'am. We've looked into it. Turns out it's illegal, unfortunately. Sad Wings Raging with a $10 super chat for the Taffy 3 Fund. Thank you again. If I disappear from this platform, know that CensorTube kicked me out. Seems like I struck a nerve with some DEI hire censor. Dude, if they could reform YouTube, it would be a different world, really different world. All of these Democrats, P7 2017 is talking about Pocahontas with her "I'll have a beer" and watching Kamala Harris sitting there having a beer at a bar. I think I'll have a beer, and she does one little tiny little sip. It's like, God Almighty. They're just they're so inauthentic. See, that's the thing about Trump. A lot of people don't like Trump, and there are a few things not to like about Trump. But even the things I don't like about Trump is authentic. It's authentic Trump. He's not faking anybody. He's not pretending to be anything other than what he is. He's just. And the things that I don't like about Trump get smaller by the day. In fact, I can't think of anything that comes to mind. Also, it looks like he's got control over his Twitter. His tweets are still spectacular and a little bombastic, but they're not. I haven't seen from Trump 2, I haven't seen any tweets that I thought were kind of cringe. It's been amazing. Yes, I did see the clip where Ian Presley said on video that she and her colleagues would do all in their power to censor the people in pursuit of progress. Yep, I saw that. I saw that slip. I saw the slip where Maxine Waters says, we don't want them to, where they're going through your records. What if they got to find out what they've got on us? That was a little slip too. Another super chat from J-Doc. What do you think about Mitch McConnell voting against Trump's nominations? He's insane. Have you seen the video of him being wheeled out to a van? He looks like the crypt keeper. He is not here. If it's wrong for Biden, it's wrong for McConnell. I can't stand Mitch McConnell. I sat next to Mitch McConnell at a lunch for FOA in 2009, maybe, or 10 at the latest. And he was bragging on how he's managed to cut $10 billion from the budget over 5 years. $10 billion over 5 years. It's $2 billion a year. We spend $4 billion a day. He is, and this was 10 years ago, he is 15. He is absolutely gone. He looks like a turtle and he needs to go. He's just plain awful. And we've got the momentum. We got a great bench. We got the Republicans are young and dynamic and good looking, and then you've got McConnell. And so McConnell understands that Trump is a threat to the rhinos. It doesn't matter to guys like McConnell whether the Republicans or the Democrats are in power, so long as he's in power. And that's the same thing for Nancy Pelosi and all the rest. It's not the Republicans and the Democrats anymore. It's the insiders versus the outsiders, and he is an embarrassment. He's just an embarrassment. Okay, moving on here. Roadrunner, greetings again, friend Bill. Hello, Roadrunner. Good to see you. One non-elected hyper-partisan judge thinks he can shut down the entire executive department. This doesn't sound like checks and balances to me. Should President Trump just ignore these officious idiots? Yeah, I think we covered this just a little while ago. It is. It's like, goodbye. We are not going to do it. Biden, on the other hand, overrode the Supreme Court. Now, that's an entirely different story. A Supreme Court ruling is very different than some circuit judge someplace making an injunction. A Supreme Court ruling, I think, needs to be respected. Biden ignored the Supreme Court ruling and bragged about it. So I think Trump should just go, okay, well, we'll sort it out later. And so I think we pretty much covered that, Roadrunner. I think it's great that he's just ignoring it, and boom. Here's Janie. Hey, Janie. Hello. Heard your Steamroller episode today. I had the same thoughts so many times. Not a commentator, but I still want to know all the things all the time, and he is going at such a pace that makes realizing my desire an impossibility unless I'm glued to Trump 24/7, which is the point I think Scott Ott was making. And here's what I will add. He's doing this more on purpose than we think. He knows he has to go this fast or the memory of his power will evaporate from the public memory. Yes, exactly. He's a media genius. He understands what media is, and right now it's fast. So he also has to go fast. President Sonic Trump, that's clever. I'm guessing he probably also knows that if he stops going fast, the negative media will fill the vacuum left by even a 48-hour moratorium, which is true. And maybe additionally he knows that a benefit of going fast is that the liberal talking mouths can't keep it up either, so they miss a lot of opportunity to brainwash their shrinking masses. Your thoughts? Thank you. Janie. Yes, you're absolutely right. And by the way, on the was it on the Backstage show? Steve was saying that Trump is moving so fast because he's inside their OODA loop, and I'm not going to take the time to explain what the OODA loop is. It was invented by John Boyd, and well, I guess I have to give you a basic explanation. Boyd said that fighter pilots need to do something called observe, orient, decide, and act. So first thing a fighter pilot has to do is figure out where he is relative to the enemy plane. He has to see the enemy plane. He has to observe the enemy plane, and observe where he is. Then he has to orient himself. What is my position relative to the enemy plane? How does that position compare? Am I offensive or defensive with this enemy plane? Then he has to decide. He has to make a decision on what course of action he's going to do in order to get himself into a good kill position. And then he has to act. He has to actually take the maneuver and get there. But it's not a line, it's a circle. Once he's acted, he then has to re-observe. Now that I'm in a new position, where are we relative to each other? He has to orient himself. Is this a better position or a worse position than we were in before? Then he has to decide, what can I do to improve my firing solution? And he has to act, and he do it again. Now, the thing about that is that the faster you go through that loop, the further ahead you get relative to your enemies. And Boyd points out that if you're cycling your OODA loop faster than the other guy is, you can even make a mistake, and you can correct your mistake before, and Chuck the Merciless just got bingo. If you're doing this quickly enough, you can actually make a mistake, and you can correct your mistake before the other guy can observe and orient and act on your mistake. But the thing that Boyd said, and this is when OODA was translated to the first Gulf War, and Schwarzkopf, under the direction of Dick Cheney, I might point out, Schwarzkopf and these guys started to see the picture. What we found in the ground war with Iraq and fighting the OODA loop on the ground is you would think traditional military doctrine says strike the enemy where they're weakest, but Boyd said no, strike the enemy where he least expects it. And that may sound more or less like the same thing, but it's not. Classical military doctrine is hit the enemy as hard as you can where he's weakest. Boyd said no, he's going to be expecting you to hit him where he's weakest. Hit him where he least expects it. And the idea behind this, and this is exactly what happened with the Gulf War, we would go in and hit a target that was so far in the rear that it really had no effect on the actual fighting for that day or the next several days. But it was so far in the rear that the Iraqis had to basically turn around and look behind them and go, my God, what the hell is going on back there? Why are they back there? And in the time it takes for them to turn around and move towards where we just were, then they hit someplace else where they least expect it. So the Iraqis spend their entire war reacting to what the coalition was doing, and the two most important things in combat, in my opinion, in war fighting, are morale and initiative. And if you keep the initiative, your morale is going to soar, and if you lose the initiative, your morale is going to suffer. And the Gulf War was nothing but Iraq just reacting to what the coalition was doing, and we kept hitting them where they didn't expect it, and it completely drove them nuts. It threw them off their game. Their war plans went into the toilet, and then they're thinking, well, we thought we would be safe here, but what if they hit us here? Who knows? So that's what Trump is doing. Is he's just keep moving. When you launch a strike on something, let's say not an airstrike, let's just say you've got like the Battle of 74 East, was it 74 Easting? Let's say you're an Iraqi commander and there's a report of an American tank platoon way over here on the edge of the map, 73 Easting. Way over here on the edge of the map, we've got a reconnaissance coming back saying that there's an American tank company out there. So we send all of our forces to intercept them, but they're not where we think they are. They're someplace else. And and all they do is end up chasing shadows. And this is why Trump has to keep moving fast, because in the time it takes for the Democrats to organize a protest about about Doge being in the Department of Education, while they're organizing their Department of Education protests, we should be done with the Department of Education and moving on to the next one. So that their protests are always about something that's a fait accompli. There's you can't go into the Department of Education. Really? No, you can't go into the Department of Education. Meanwhile, Trump is saying, well, why can't we go into the Department of Education? But we're not even in education anymore. Now we're on, as Roadrunner points out, now we're on the IRS. And they will constantly be chasing where you were. You are constantly they are converging on a vacuum. That's the expression I was looking for. Converging on a vacuum. And every time he succeeds, he gets stronger. And every time he succeeds, the Democrats look weaker. And it's wonderful. It's magnificent. It's magnificent. Dave Big Booty says, oh, please, dear God, make the Dems take the side of the IRS. They have to take the side of the IRS, Dave. It's not an if. They have to. If Trump is attacking the IRS, then they have to oppose Trump. This is the trap, you see, that they've fallen into. When their entire political position, when the entire identity of the Democratic Party is to oppose Donald Trump, they have to take the anti-Trump position. So as long as Trump continues to do something that 4 out of 5 people approve of, then the left is going to have to constantly put themselves in a position that 1 out of 5 people approve of. It's going to be 80-20 the whole way. And Trump's personal popularity is approaching probably 55-60% now. But if Trump keeps backing 80% approval rating topics and policies, then his approval rating is going to start to approach 80%, which is insane, unheard of, impossible. And I think J.D. Vance is going to do. I think J.D. Vance is a lot more electable than Trump. Don't get me wrong. Trump is the guy we needed in 24, and no one can do what Trump is doing now. But after 4 years of Trump smashing things, Vance is the perfect guy to continue to do the cleanup, because he's got a much softer edge on him, and it's almost like let Trump win the war, and then let Vance win the peace, because Vance is a very, very attractive guy, a charismatic guy. He's got a backbone. He's got a very, very good ability to calmly dissect the left, and he doesn't drive people crazy the way that people hate Trump. I mean, honestly, yeah, there you go. That's really good. Logan DWJ, whose name I haven't seen before, says Trump is Patton and Vance is Eisenhower. That's a really excellent analogy. Trump is Patton and Vance is Eisenhower. Boy, that's good. That's really, really good. So anyway, it's all just great. Now, I saw a statistic that I frankly found hard to believe, but apparently it's true. It was on CNN. This was 20 days after Trump had been in office. They said that during Trump's first term, during his entire 4 years of Trump 1.0, he was above 50% for 10 days. Out of 4 years, 10 days, Trump was above 50%, which could have knocked me over with a feather. He said, however, Trump 2 is above 50% for 20 out of 20 days. In other words, Trump has already spent twice as long being above 50% in his first 20 days than he did during his entire first 4 years. I didn't know Trump had been that unpopular, to be honest with you, because I was certainly pulling hard for him. So, man, it's a whole nother world. And Eric says it'd be funny if Vance picks DeSantis as his VP. Why not? That would be a great pick. And you get into a two white males thing. It's like, no, we're selling competence now. DeSantis can run on his record, and there's no shortage of women in this mix. I'm just disappointed that Vivek got out. I'm really kind of shocked, actually, shocked and really sad that he just walked off the stage somehow. There must have been some kind of a breakup, because I do not understand why Vivek would just disappear right at the beginning. That's the only dark cloud on the entire thing since the election that I can see that really confounds me and disappoints me. He's apparently running for governor of Ohio. Well, okay. That election is in 2 years. Why couldn't he have stuck with Doge for a year, gotten, the bulk of the world done, and then run for governor of Ohio? I don't get it. No, John said might position him better for 28. No, we're winning. You want to be on stage with the winners, He said it's because he's running for governor. Okay. I still think he could have stuck it out for at least 6 months and really for another year. J-Doc says it's part of their plan. Lord Bios says he thinks he's a carpetbagger who always kind of goes where the wind goes. I don't know. But I am as happy as I can be, really. And it looks like we've run the table. If Kash Patel gets confirmed, then he's run the table. Yeah, Battlesmurf says I want the Dems to defend the client list. Yeah, they'll have to do that too. If Trump comes out with the Epstein list, the Dems are going to have to defend that too. And that one, they're going to have their heart in, because there's a lot of names on that list. The Clintons are on that list. Vivek denied there's any bad blood between him and Elon. I believe it. I'm sure that's the case. I just miss him. I think it should be there. If you like him, we should pronounce his name right. Is it Vivek? I don't know. He may have just stepped down or stepped out of the limelight because he had a couple of, couple of really bad tweets there, the with the whole Vivek. Sorry, Vivek. But anyway, I just would have been nice to see him. So anyway, Mark McConnell, no relation to Mitch apparently. Vivek like cake. Okay, got it. Vivek. Hello, Bill. I recently saw a video that discussed some of the flagrant expenditures Doge has uncovered. One in particular stood out and caused me fits of laughter and outrage, alternating for quite a while. $3 million for studying steroid-enhanced hamster fighting. I did not hear about that one. Please give us your take on this brain-melting waste of money and comment on how out-of-the-box thinking had to be involved. Could this have been live-streamed and been a new source of revenue for us? I would have subscribed for sure. Yeah, I have been working secretly on my my enhanced hamster fighting league, and I wanted to keep it secret, but now that the cat is out of the bag, I'm going to be feeling that that cutoff of funds, because we were getting to the point where we were breeding these hamsters to be the size of small bears, and it's there are some areas of basic research that can sound ridiculous that aren't, but this is not one of them, and nearly all of them are freaking. I saw horror stories that they were experimenting on beagles or puppies or something, trying to make them transsexual or something like that. Good Lord. I mean, but grant writing is a it's a job, and researchers survive by, getting grants. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, Fauci was killing beagle puppies. Yeah, yeah, freaking God. So yeah, so there's a place. There's a legitimate place, a very legitimate place, in fact, an essential place for the government of. If you want to remain the leading power in the world, you've got to be prepared to write serious checks for science research that may not show any immediate payoff, but it's just basic research, just fundamental basic research, and that kind of thing is important. But I don't see how enhanced enhanced hamsters really help the matter. I'm sure what they're really doing is they're studying. I'm sure if you ask the researchers, they'll tell you that they're studying the effects of steroid use or overuse in hamsters in order to know what steroids are doing to people's bodies, and maybe even be looking into things like these hormones that are going to the transgenders and all the rest of it. But in any event, I mean, they may be studying roid rage for all we know. But the steroid enhanced hamster fighting does have a nice ring to it. I think I'd probably watch that. Okay, here we go. Moving on. Ian Nolan. Bill, I think the USAID scandal is the final definitive proof that, as things were before Doge came in, supporting Ukraine against Russia meant undercutting liberty at home. Watching the entire edifice collapsing is a beautiful thing. This all raises an interesting question, though. How do we actually put reasonable guardrails on soft power? Well, I think it's up to the people, and I've seen the left right now. The current talking point for the left is constitutional crisis. You'll hear constitutional crisis from 75 different mouthpieces at the same time because it's the talking point for the week. This is a constitutional crisis, and I've heard it 9 times in any 10-minute period. So the left uses something like a constitutional crisis as a talking point and something to gain traction to try to slow down this juggernaut, this steamroller. But in terms of checks on power, the people who give a damn about the Constitution, which would be conservatives, we know what constitutional abuse of power is, and this is why the left doesn't understand why we don't have a problem with Donald Trump and his multiple felonies, because we know the facts behind those felony convictions, and we know that they're, if you'll pardon the expression, completely trumped up charges. Everybody who understands the details of the case knows that those are not actual felony convictions. If Donald Trump had been actually convicted of feloniously stealing money from the government the way that these Democrats are, then MAGA would want him in jail, because we have standards that are independent of short-term political gain. They say, how can you support a felon? It's like, we support him because we understand he's not a felon. We understand that this entire thing was just plain political showmanship. We read the indictments. We saw how they worked. We realized that at worst, they were misdemeanor charges, may not even have been those, that were leapfrogged up into election interference in a way that no other prosecutor, and the fact you had to go so far down the food chain to find somebody who would bring the case and so on. So we know that they're bogus charges. But if they were real charges, then Trump would lose support. And it's just my feeling on this is that if Doge ever overstepped the boundaries, they would lose the support of the people that back Doge the most. Trump ran on cleaning up house, draining the swamp, and cleaning up government. People voted for him rather overwhelmingly to do that. Everybody who voted for him in order to clean up the government is astonished at how fast he's moving. I haven't heard a single person who's not over the moon delirious, slack-jawed amazement at how much winning we're doing. John Eden says they raided his house, for Pete's sake. By the way, that was the moment that the Democrats created this monster, was when they raided Mar-a-Lago. That was what re-energized Trump, I think, really angered him, and that's what made large percentage of the population say, I don't even know if I like Trump, but this is ridiculous. That Mar-a-Lago raid was the biggest mistake the Democrats have ever made in modern history since the end of World War II. That was the dumbest thing that they ever did, because that's something that regular citizens could immediately relate to, you know? Oh, the FBI's here kicking down your door? Marisha says Elon said he's the most scrutinized person on Earth at the moment, and he couldn't hide anything if he tried, and Elon's the second most scrutinized person on the Earth, so they can swing all they want to. This is what they do. They overreach, and I don't see them coming back from this. I'm not saying that this is never going to end. Obviously, things will eventually, stop swinging so hard in our direction. But the amount of restoration that we can do between now and then is mind-boggling. How do you, just little things like Fort Bragg, for example, and the genius of how it was done, the way that Hegseth did it, it was like, yeah, we've renamed Fort Bragg used to be Fort Liberty used to be Fort Bragg. Well, it's Fort Bragg again. Well, how can you name it after a Confederate general? Oh no, we didn't name it after that Bragg. We named it after another Bragg who was a hero in World War II, an airman or something like that. That's bloody genius. It's political genius. I'm sure they'll find a somebody else whose name was Hood that we can rename Fort Hood and all the rest of it. We're bringing our culture back, but it's rebuilding the P-38, but giving it GPS navigation. It's just bloody brilliant, man. So you get to keep the tradition of Fort Bragg. That tradition's important. For the military, traditions are very important for the military, and there are almost uncountable numbers of people who either did a tour in or essentially graduated from Fort Bragg, and then you change the name to Fort Liberty and you break that bond. So making it Fort Bragg again was genius. He's putting up the statues again, but they're statues of better people, and we're getting our history back, and we're getting more, because I'd never heard of this new Bragg, but it's freaking genius. So how are they going to argue about? In other words, how are they going to take Fort Bragg away again if now it's about a World War II guy and not a Confederate general, right? Braxton Bragg, by the way, was without question the most mean-tempered commander in the Civil War, despised by everybody, and was not a very good general, if I recall. The only general who the North would rather face was John Bell Hood, because Hood was so impetuous. And Fort Hood is another one of the bases that was renamed. So the Confederates really liked Joe Johnson because he was very conservative and played it safe, but he didn't have Lee's flair, but he didn't throw his guys away. And Bragg was mostly just not terribly brilliant tactically, and Hood was audacious but impetuous and ended up destroying his entire army at Franklin and then Nashville. Just the whole Western Army just fell apart because they just, Is Fort Hood in Texas? And somebody just tell me. I honestly don't know. The reason I'm asking is because yes, okay, so that's why they named it Fort Hood. Because John Bell Hood was, Hood was a Texas general, so that's why they named it Fort Hood. He he was very effective in the early days in the 7 Days campaign. But when he was given, everybody said he was a great, division commander or something, but that commanding the entire army was outside of his capabilities, and he proved him right. I had a lot of sympathy for Hood. Actually, he was one of the Confederates that I felt most sympathetic towards. So we'll see. We got a Road Rider, we got a Bob Knife, we got a Jacob Belchuk, got a Mirsha Dark, and Eric Blake. I'm just not going to make it. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to cut it off. I'm going to do. I'm just going to do two more. I'm just running out of voice. So sorry about that for those of you who got short-sticked tonight here. I'm going to do a Road Rider and then Bob Neef, and then I'm kind of done, I think. So again, my apologies if you got cut off tonight. Just bring it back and put second time, and we'll get to you next week. Okay. Road Rider. Hello, Teacher Bill. Well, hello. Please excuse my tardiness on Monday. I had a stomach ache. I have had that stomach ache many times. And I hear you, brother. I actually did try to use the dog ate my homework. I honestly did. I tried to use that excuse before I'd heard of that excuse. I honest to God tried it on Mr. Sanchez in 6th grade, and he didn't buy it. And it's a shame because I thought I sold it. I really did. I was very sick, caused by thinking that our $7 trillion federal expenditures could have been only $3 trillion or $3,000 billion spent. I got my W-2 last week, meaning I'll begin the process of doing my taxes. The question: is it possible that half of our taxes over the last 20 years or more were wasted in evil, nasty kickback NGO and CIA and swamp creature self-enrichment schemes? Yes, I think half our taxes is a real possibility. And yes, it should make you insane. And good Lord, out of the clear blue sky, here comes John Eden with yet another $99.99 super chat. John, you are a fine fellow, and it's just so much fun to be able to celebrate after having spent so much time, being on the defensive and watching everything crumble. And then in comes the red super chat for another $100, and I'm gobsmacked and speechless every single time. Thank you very much, John. And isn't it great, buddy? Isn't it just great? It's just great. Thank you. Back to Road Rider. Yeah, and Merge says only 20 years. I bet it's more like 50. F those guys. I'm waiting for April 14th to file my taxes for 2024. Maybe, just maybe, Rock'em Sock'em Trump'em can punch away at my tax bill. I've had that thought myself. Wouldn't that be lovely? That'd be much better than a Gaviscon tablet. The more I see what Doge is finding, the more pissed off I get. Yes, and that's exactly it. Whenever I see this money going to these people, my first thought is, well, that's my money. I remember writing checks for that and things that I couldn't do or wanted to do because of the taxes, and then we got the California taxes on top of it. And it's like, honestly, I want my money back. I want a tax cut. I want these people. I want somebody to go after the people that have stolen this money and get back as much as they can. Yeah, breaking news: Doge is in the IRS now. Mm-hmm. I heard Trump say maybe we should abolish the IRS. I heard him say it. I saw him say it. You want to talk about a platform to run on, man. You want to talk about a platform to run on. See, that's the thing, because when you have it's virtually impossible. I don't know what our federal budget is now. Somebody said $7 trillion. I thought it was $4. It's certainly over 4 now, so it's 5-6 trillion, whatever. Here's where I'm going with this. It doesn't seem possible that tariffs could make up that kind of money. But if what we end up finding is that it only costs $1 or $2 trillion to run this government instead of 7, then maybe you could do it with tariffs. you really maybe could do it with tariffs. Aussie Drone Guy says Australians didn't pay income tax until 1915 as a way to fund World War I expenses. We didn't get it until 1916, so you had an extra year to pay these swine. When income tax was first passed, well, it may not have been 1916, actually, it might have been later. It was the 16th Amendment, so I might have gotten that confused. But they said income tax was going to be 1% and maybe 3% on the very rich. And it was going to be held at 1%, we promise. Yeah. Lady Jane Waterman says how exciting it must be to be part of Trump's investigative staff. Yeah, think how cool it would be if you're one of the like inside guys at Doge, you know. You're just sitting there with Elon and two other guys, and you got a computer terminal, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're chewing on pizza, and all of a sudden you go, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. $480 billion to this agency, and this agency only paid out $6. Wait a minute. It's got to be a heck of a feeling. 1913? So we did get there first. Hooray. Lucky us. Honestly, exactly. Lord Bio says it reminds me of the Untouchables. It does. It's what it feels like. That's exactly what they feel like. Then somebody needs to do a poster of that. Because they are the Untouchables. They're going after corruption. And people, he has the tactical genius of it is unbelievable. He's forcing the Democrats to become the party of defending corruption. They're not only the party of corruption, they're the party that has to come out and defend corruption. When you hear Maxine Waters screaming and yelling about, you can't go in there and investigate this, makes you wonder why she's so enthusiastic. Yeah. Oh, over there, Turing Flying on YouTube says, I don't want them fired. I want them to serve decades in prison. Me too. If they're guilty, they deserve a fair trial and evidence needs to be presented. Presumption of innocence is on them. I'm all about that. But by God, if they can prosecute these people, I get the feeling that Pam Bondi is not going to be shy about going after these folks. Yeah. P7 says, let the Dems try to win by saying, we won't let Trump eliminate income taxes. They will do that. They'll have to. They have no choice. They'll say, if they cut the income tax, then there's going to be no social programs and people are going to starve. That's where they're going to go with it. But the people who pay taxes are going to be saying, I think the 20 trillion or whatever we've done in wealth transfer is probably enough by now. I think we sure have seen better results than what we've seen in terms of that. So yeah, man, I am 100% with you, and Veronica says, and a number of people have said that Doge is at about 100 now. That's good. You're going to need more people because you've got gigantic enormous amounts of numbers. You know, this is the most complicated financial system in the world. The U.S. government is, by orders of magnitude, the most complex financial creation in the history of the world. Nothing approaches it. Nothing at all. Nothing. You probably could make the case just the Defense Department alone is the most complex financial institution in the history of the world. But when you get into Social Security and all these payments, wait till we find out how much Social Security fraud there is, how much Medicare fraud there is, how much welfare fraud there is. Yes, we need to move fast. I mean, obviously, the steamroller thing, that is a great thumbnail for that, and I love that thumbnail because that's what I want. I love seeing Trump doing 80 miles an hour in a steamroller. So me calling for a 48-hour moratorium is tongue-in-cheek. I want him to go faster. That's what I want. So there we go. We'll do one more and then we'll call it a night, I think. Yeah, 100 geniuses can bring down 3 or 4 million, minimal effort midwits. Bob Neef, over the next years and decades, will there be a new Renaissance appreciation of the incredible successes of Western civilization? Well, thank you very much for that, Dr. Vinny Boombots. I get no respect at all. yes, that's an interesting point. We are, when we feel this giddiness, this winning, right? This waking up every single day, and Natasha feels it too. And she says, I'm a part of this. I voted for this. I said, yes, you did, honey. You voted for Donald Trump. You are a part of this. Absolutely. But this euphoria is the euphoria of a civilization that was in decline, that is not only slowly turning the corner, but basically has opened up like a jack in the box. And the realization is that all of the forces that have been opposing us, that have been so overwhelming, are actually just will-o'-the-wisps. Probably wills of the wisp, for all I know. But in any event, you get the idea, right? That they're illusory, that they don't really exist. That so much of the power of the left has been bought and paid for with our tax dollars. Roadrunner is kind of related. It says, in a weird sort of way, says, make playgrounds great again. On our backstage shows, Scott was talking about in somewhere in Europe, they're opening playgrounds where they have the merry-go-rounds, and they've got swings and monkey bars, and you can bounce around and fall out of trees and make forts and stuff. And yeah, it's like it's the it's like waking up out of a dream. And I've said before that when the emperor is exposed to not wear new clothes, it's not a slow process. Once that boy says he's not wearing any clothes, it is over. It's over. It's the illusion is shattered. The term glamour, the real meaning of glamour is an illusion. A glamour is an illusion, a vision that's conjured to make something beautiful, to cover up something that's very, very ugly. And the glamour has broken. It's like you see a lot of it now. But can you remember, like, the first time you ever saw? Just pick a movie star. I want to say that this was back in the days of the National Enquirer, even, or something, where you'd be checking out or something, because, like I said, you see it all the time now. But back even before the internet, you would see a cover of the Enquirer, and it would be famous movie star without makeup, and you would just go, "Oh my God!" You ever have that experience? Fairly or unfairly, it's usually women. But you just see somebody and you just go, oh my God, that's Pamela Anderson, or whoever. And you can't believe it. That's really what it is. And it's a snowball that gets bigger and more momentum as it goes. I'm just Janie says, Oprah without makeup. Once you see them without the makeup, you can't unsee it. It's gone. The glamour, the illusion of glamour is gone. And Kevin says, yes, Inquirer, bring back Bat Boy. I remember Bat Boy. I loved Bat Boy. Yeah, that Bat Boy headline. I think my favorite Inquirer headline was B-17 bomber found on moon. I really think that was my all-time favorite. Weekly World News? It was Weekly World News. So, yeah, if it turns out that we can run this government for a tenth or a fifth or whatever of what we've been paying for it, then maybe you could pay for it with tariffs. Just think about what would happen to the economy. Not just the economy, because this goes back to his question about Western civilization. I kind of got off the rails there. But what you're seeing a return to a belief in our own civilization. We're beginning to believe in things again. This feeling we have is cynicism melting away. It's cynicism melting away, and that idealism that is such a big part of being an American. This pride in this civilization that you had to smother because of all of this corruption and all of this incompetence and all of this stuff that made you think, well, the country's done for, it's over, it was great once, and Natasha and I had to go to the emergency room 3 months ago, And it was so appalling. And I had to tell her, honey, it wasn't always like this. I have to say that often to her, honey, it just wasn't like this before. Medical care wasn't like this when I was a kid. There were no homeless sleeping under bridges when I was a kid. I have to say that again and again and again. And now it's like I can see a world where I don't have to qualify it when I say it's a free country. Oh, it used to be. You know, it's it's a euphoria that comes with winning, with success. And I know winning is a joke. It's like, oh, you're going to get tired of winning, but this is what winning feels like. This is Western civilization winning. This is, and by the way, this is Western civilization doing the only thing that the only civilization on Earth can do, and that is police itself. We've gone 50 years without a house cleaning, or longer, probably 80. I bet it's 80. But only Western civilization can self-correct like this without burning it to the ground. And I don't mean figuratively, I mean literally burning it to the ground. We didn't have to burn Washington to the ground. We didn't have to have a revolution and have a new flag. And it's like it is correcting itself because the people had enough. And man, it's great. And it's like, and now you also kind of get the barn building effect where it's like, yes, there's a ton of work to do, and yes, there's a ton of damage, but everybody's on board now, right? And the whole country is feeling it. You've got people on the job site saying, I'm ready to shovel sand into sandbags. Okay, over there. And it's like, I don't have to clean this whole thing up by myself. We're all here working together on it, and the excitement just accelerates and accelerates. So yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and they are eventually going to launch their counterattack, but they are in such a state of retreat. See, here's the thing about a counterattack, right? There's two things you need for a counterattack. Number one, and by far most importantly, the offensive has to run out of steam. So you have the Battle of the Bulge, and the Germans break through the lines, and they're just pushing, and then finally all of the inertia and energy of the attack is spent, and then the lines stabilize, and then once the lines stabilize, then the counterattack can push them back behind the line they started from. And you see this all the time in history, these gigantic breakthrough battles, and then finally, it's not that the defense holds, it's just that the offensive, the offense runs out of steam. So when I see this offensive that's going on with Doge, I don't see it running out of steam. I see it gaining steam. And that's where you actually can win a war. Because there's one thing to defeat an army and have the army retreat from the battlefield. Then there's another thing you can do where you can rout them, where they run from the battlefield. But there are occasionally times when you can actually break them, where they not only lose the will to stand and fight on the spot, they want to go home after this. They got beaten so badly that they want to go home. They want to give up. I'm just tired of fighting now. You got to realize how demoralizing this has got to be for a leftist, right? Let's say that you're let's say you're not part of the fraud machine, but you're a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, and you're a liberal your whole life, and you hate Donald Trump, and you voted for Harris and all the rest. All of this stuff coming out, imagine how demoralizing it is to find out that their team has been, how corrupt their own team is, how old their own team is, how incompetent there is. Schumer leading that cheer is like, I mean, it's like watching one of your aircraft carriers go down. It's like, it's so demoralizing for them. And the more we find, the more corrupt they are, the more ashamed that actual Democrats. Now reflexively they're going to fight back, but this is where their cognitive dissonance can reach a critical mass, and that's when we get to the 80-20 point, right? By the way, the biggest conceivable victory is an 80-20 victory. 80-20 appears in nature so many times, especially in human behavior so many times. You use 20% of your tools 80% of your time, and 80% of your tools 20% of your time. And all of this stuff, 80-20 seems to be built into the universe, and certainly built into human behavior. So the idea that there's never going to be an opposition anymore is absurd. It's never going to happen. But it's not impossible to think that you could get to numbers pushing 80-20. 60-40 is enough. And you think, well, there's going to come a point where they're going to rally and they're going to counterattack and stuff. You might want to ask the Whigs about that. Hey, George says, 80-20 seems to be true about 80% of the time. Brilliant, buddy. That's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant line. And I'm going to steal it and use it. And I'll say this belongs to George. Yeah, 80-20 rule applies pretty much 80% of the time. We got a super chat from J-Doc. Thank you very much, with nothing attached. And one from Logan Darklighter. Do you suppose Antifa might fall into uselessness because the funds used to pay them get cut off? Yes. What about Just Stop Oil? Yes, I think their funding gets cut off, but I don't want their funding to get cut off. I want to see more Antifa. We've had a number of anti-ICE protests in LA, where people shut down the freeways and they wave Mexican flags and burn American flags. And that, I want to see more of that. I want to see a lot of that. I want to see Antifa smashing windows because we're finding corruption and waste. I want them to put their worst foot forward because they're just plain terrible. So, there you go. John Pershing says, LOL, just saw Blue Origin cut 1,000 jobs because bureaucracy. Hey, Jeff, maybe do more things like Musk and you'll start moving faster. Yeah. What do you do? If you can't prove it, get out of there. So, yeah. It's, I don't know. I just am, I'm a big believer in him moving fast and constantly keeping the initiative. And I don't know if they're smart enough to rally. For example, I've heard a number of Democrats say things along the lines of, we are going to plant our flag on this trans hill or on this Doge hill, and this is where we're going to fight and die. It's like, good. If you're gonna make a stand and fight, I want you to stand and fight on ground that is very, very detrimental to you. I don't know if they're smart enough to keep retreating and disengage. See, that's the thing. In order to have a counterattack, you have to stand. I'm talking about the defense now. The defense has to stand someplace. They have to stand someplace, catch their breath, gather, concentrate, and counterattack. And in order to do that, they have to disengage. This is the key. The army that's being routed has to disengage. Now, the way that they usually disengage historically is the offensive team just runs out of steam, and the offensive team and the losers keep running, and the victors stop running. That's how they disengage. And then they go another 20 miles over the hills, and then they find a defensible position, then they catch their breath and they start to reorganize, and that's how they build the defensive. But the problem with the left is the left cannot disengage. They cannot. They are ideologically bound to engage. They cannot simply walk away. Disengagement for the left means, wow, Trump's got a really good point here. No, who could argue with that? That's disengaging. They can't do it. They can't do it. So if the defeated army cannot disengage, then they'll never be able to rally. It's like they keep turning to fight when they should be running away. And running away means shutting their mouths and stop giving us more ammunition. That's what disengaging means. They can't do it, and that's really, really, really good news. Really good news. So, anyway, that's it. And I think that's probably going to do it for me tonight because I'm getting a little burned out by the voice here. Yeah, P7 says, if you're judging from the last few years, if you're waiting for Trump to run out of gas, I hope you pack lunch. Yeah. I think so too, man. And Aussie Drone Guy says, I think this is a money war. Whoever defends, protects, and saves the people's money wins. This is an 80-20 issue, right? The only people that don't want to see waste cut are the people who are benefiting from waste and the people that support them, and that's 20% of the population. 80% of the population is loving this. So they can take the 80-20. Yeah, I saw it, Marusha. Thank you. They can take the 20% position all the time. So there you go. Eric says everyone who hasn't gotten their questions answered, he's already set up next week's Q&A. So if you want to march over to the BillWhittle.com members forum, if you're a member, you can get that in there now. It'll be at the top of the list because we do go through them chronologically. And if it turns out that you posted a question tonight, just put second time asking, and I'll try to make an effort to get to it next time. I am already posted the right angles, and the wall is super black, and it means I can go home. Yeah. Yep. Copy Shinada says, pics of the Camaro next time. I'm going to do a walk around when it's finished. I'm almost done. I've got to put a new bumper on the front, a little dinged up, but other than that, it's about done. So there we go. Yeah, Richard Burton with a nice message. Pray for America, love one another. Thanks, Bill. You bet, buddy. Yeah, pray for America, and pray harder than you did when we were losing, because now is the time. We are living in the moment. We cannot relax, and I don't see any signs of relaxing. So I'm feeling great. Just a quick update. I'm going back home. I'm going to see how Bean's doing. Bean took a real hit probably a month ago. He just got real old and just started sleeping, not really cleaning himself. So he took a real dive, and I thought that dive was going to continue, but he seems to have leveled out. He's not really sure where he is. He's unsteady on his feet, but he's eating. He's keeping his weight up. And he's hanging in there. So I'm going to take care of that boy until he tells me he doesn't want me to take care of him anymore. And they have a way of doing that. They let you know. So I'm just happy he's here for another day. So he's a good bean. He's been a good bean his whole life. So Eric Blake is singing the theme song from the GE Carousel of Progress. If you ever went to Disney World, you know that tune, which I haven't heard in a long time, but which is in my head perfectly. It's a catchy tune, and it was, and I rode that Carousel of Progress in Tomorrowland and Disney World many times. Okay, so. Yeah, thanks everybody. This show's made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com, who you probably know and admire as much as I do. And grad night at Disney World. Oh, Tranquility Base USA, my God, man, you have given me a memory. I remember grad night at Disney World so bloody well. I remember it so well. And thank you for all the kind words and all the just the very, very generous feelings, the outputs, the super chats, all of that, and John Eden again, just amazing. Anyway, it's been great talking with you, and we'll say goodnight to our friends on YouTube real quick. So thanks for joining us on YouTube, and we will see you on Monday night here for Stratosphere Studio.